What's going on guys, Cesar here. Welcome to a brand new video. Today I'm summarizing the history of Egypt. Because for over 5,000 years, Egypt has stood as one of the greatest civilizations in history. So in this video we'll take a journey through the fascinating history of Egypt summarized into one epic timeline. So let's dive in. So before 3100 BCE, there was a period called prehistoric Egypt. That period involved early settlements along the Nile, and there was some development in the agriculture and early villages. During that period, Egypt was not yet a unified country. Instead, it was made up of small independent villages along the Nile River. Then at around 3100 BCE, the birth of the ancient Egypt begins. This right there is the map of the ancient Egypt. It was divided into Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt. I know it's kind of confusing why the top one is the lower and the bottom one is the upper. That was because of the flow of the Nile River. The Nile River flew from the south into the north and emptying into the Mediterranean Sea. So yeah, Upper Egypt is the upstream, it's the land with the higher elevation, and Lower Egypt was the downstream, which was closer to the sea level. Then came this guy who is King Narmer or Menes or Mina, he has a bunch of names. He unified Egypt, combining both Upper and Lower Egypt, and established the capital in Memphis, which marks the start of the first dynasty. This is Memphis now, by the way, or what remains of it. It's located near Cairo. Its ruins right now can be found near the town of Mitrahina, so yeah, you can go check it out if you live in Egypt. Anyways, back to the dynasty of Narmer or Menes. This face makes me feel like he's a serial killer from a horror movie. Anyways, during King Menes' dynasty, the writing system, hieroglyphics, and the early religious practices started developing. Early Egyptians built shrines and small temples dedicated to gods, often near the capital, Memphis. Okay, now let's move on to the Old Kingdom, which is also known as the Age of Pyramids. This era saw the construction of Egypt's most famous pyramids: the Great Pyramid of Khufu, and the Pyramid of Khafra, and the Pyramid of Menkaure. Also the Great Sphinx of Giza. Pharaohs were seen as divine rulers and society was highly structured. Then the Old Kingdom was declined due to famine, economic strain, and political instability, leading to regional rulers gaining power, which were mainly the nomarchs. Nomarchs were the provincial governors of ancient Egypt, and each ruling over a nome. They were originally appointed by the pharaoh, but as the central government weakened, they started acting more independently and became local kings in their regions. So by the year 2181 BCE, the Old Kingdom collapsed and Egypt fell into chaos, and nomarchs took control of their regions. This marked the beginning of the first intermediate period of Egypt, a time when Egypt was divided and no single pharaoh ruled the entire land. That period is basically called a time of chaos. Remember when the Old Kingdom was called the Age of Pyramids? First intermediate period was a time of chaos. Egypt fragmented into smaller regions ruled by the local governors, which are the nomarchs. It was a period of famine, civil wars, and instability. Eventually, the Theban rulers unified Egypt. How did they do that, you might be wondering? Well, during the first intermediate period, Egypt split again into two regions: Lower Egypt and Upper Egypt. The Heracleopolitan kings ruled Lower Egypt, and the Theban rulers controlled Upper Egypt. These were the two cities from which the two regions were controlled. Heracleopolis controlled the Lower Egypt, and Thebes controlled the Upper Egypt, or the southern part. Then around 2055 BCE, Mentuhotep II of Thebes arrived and defeated the Heracleopolitan rulers, and then he reunified Egypt. And that leads to the start of the Middle Kingdom, which is also called a time of rebirth. During this period, Egypt was reunified under strong rulers like Mentuhotep II, who happens to be the founder and the reunifier of Egypt, as we spoke before, and he made Thebes the new capital. Also during this era, there were expanded trades and military campaigns in Nubia. Nubia was located south of Egypt, which is now the northern Sudan and the southern Egypt. And same as Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt before, Upper Nubia and Lower Nubia were reversed to us on the map. Senusret III was the pharaoh that led the military campaigns into Nubia, expanding Egypt control over the region. He also built a series of fortresses along the Nile, such as Buhun, Semna, and Euronarti, and that was to control Egypt's borders and to control the trade routes. Also, literature and art flourished during the Middle Kingdom. This period saw the creation of some of the most famous Egyptian literary works, like the Tale of Sunu, the Instructions of Amenemhat, and many others. Then comes the Hyksos. They're not lovely people. They invaded Egypt and conquered it, and they took control of the northern part of the country. And that, folks, is the second intermediate period. However, the Theban princes like Seknen Retau refused to give up so easily, and they eventually drove out Hyksos from the country. Ahmose I was the one that actually defeated the Hyksos and expelled them from Egypt. The war to expel the Hyksos lasted approximately 30 years, so yeah, it took a while. But now we've arrived to the new kingdom, which happens to be the Golden Age of Egypt. It had one of the greatest pharaohs ever, like Hatshepsut, Thutmose III, which happens to be one of the best military geniuses in ancient Egypt. He's often called the Napoleon of Egypt, and he transformed Egypt into a vast empire. This period also involved Akhenaten, or in Arabic Echnaton. Echnaton is best known for his religious revolution, where he replaced Egypt's traditional polytheistic beliefs into the worship of Aten, or in Arabic Aton. The symbol of Aten is a radiant sun disk with rays extending downwards, like the one you see right here. Each ray ends in a small hand. These hands are often depicted as they are offering lives to the pharaoh and his family. Also, the new kingdom had Ramses II. He's often called Ramses the Great due to his long reign and military successes and, the massive building projects. He built the Abu Simbel temples featuring 4 giant statues of, himself. He also expanded the Karnak and Luxor temples. He also fought the Battle of Kadesh against the Hittites. It was basically a battle that was fought between Egypt and the Hittite Empire over control of Kadesh, which is a strategic city in modern-day Syria. Ramses II claimed victory in the Egyptian records. The Hittites also claimed victory in their records, and the battle ended the conflict over Kadesh with both empires, maintaining power in the region. This battle ended with the first recorded peace treaty, which is the Egyptian-Hittite Treaty, because both sides realized that neither could achieve a decisive victory. King Tutankhamun also ruled briefly during the New Kingdom era, and his tomb was discovered on the 20th century. And the empire during the New Kingdom expanded into Nubia, the Levant, and, parts of modern Syria. This expansion was mostly done by Thutmose III, or the Napoleon of Egypt, but also Ahmose I, Thutmose I, and Ramses II participated in this expansion. Then comes the third intermediate period. Egypt was weakened and divided among local rulers. Ramses III did some great things like defending Egypt against the Sea Peoples. However, his reign marked the beginning of decline. After his death, the economy weakened and Egypt lost control over Nubia and Canaan. The priesthood of Amun in Thebes became extremely powerful, rivaling the Pharaohs. There were also foreign invasions by the Libyans and the Nubians in Egypt. Basically, Egyptian rulers relied on Libyan mercenaries who eventually took power and ruled as pharaohs in the north. Egypt remained divided, making it weak against other invaders. Then the kingdom of Kush, or Nubia, invaded and briefly reunified Egypt under the 25th dynasty. They actually revived Egyptian traditions, but they could not hold power for long. Then came the Assyrian invasion. The powerful Assyrian Empire invaded and defeated the Nubians, taking over Egypt. The Assyrians installed puppet rulers, ending the rule of strong native pharaohs. This is actually called the Late Period. The Assyrians actually faced problems elsewhere. They were distracted by revolts in their empire. Their focus shifted in fighting wars in Babylonia and Elam, leaving Egypt weakly defended. He formed alliances with the Greek mercenaries and Libyan warriors, strengthening his military. Then Psamtik defeated the other rival governors in Egypt and reunified Egypt under his rule. The Assyrians were too weak to respond because, like I said, they had other problems. Then Psamtik declared independence and became the sole ruler of Egypt. And he ruled over 50 years, bringing peace and prosperity to Egypt. Then came the Persian Empire. Egypt just couldn't take a break, could it? They're called the Achaemenid Persian Empire. Remember in the video History of the World, I guess it was like, it's the Persian Empire. Wow, that's big. Yeah, Egypt is included in that. Anyways, that's all about the summary of the Egyptian history. I hope you find this video helpful. And yeah, maybe I'll continue the history of Egypt after the Pharaohs and go to the Roman empires and whatnot. But yeah, not in this video. This video is just dedicated to the Pharaohs. And yeah, that's pretty much all. I will see you guys later. Bye.